I've done it. I've reached the last of the Pixar movies. Or at the very least, the last of the Pixar movies for the moment, because, there's going to be more because they make money, so of course there's going to be more. This may not even be the last movie that has Buzz Lightyear in it in any form. They might do a Buzz Lightyear 2, which they kind of set up for at the end of this movie. There might be another Toy Story movie at some point in the future, or something else that has Buzz in it, for all I know. Oh well. So, two things. First off, if I look flushed, it's because I was out walking the dog and I'm still, it's hot. Even though this is going to be going up, like, when it's not going to be as hot out, it's still going to be hot. And it's allergy season right now. So if there's multiple cuts in here that have no explanation, it's because I sneezed or coughed because of allergies. And if I sniffle a lot, that's because of allergies. I'm sorry, some pollen is in the air right now that's just really hitting me bad and it's not fun. So, apologies for that up front. So, this is my review of Lightyear, which came out in 2022, so just earlier this year. Actually, not that long ago. I did go and see it in theaters with my dad, which was very nice. Not that I don't like watching movies on, Disney Plus as well, because we have that, and that's where we watched this movie, was on Disney Plus again, because I saw this in the theater several months ago, and then now I've watched it again. For this, plus they have like a behind the scenes thing where they talk about transitioning from the character that is the toy into the movie. And it's kind of like working backwards from that. So, the premise of Lightyear, of the movie itself, is that back in 1995, which already just sounds like a very long time ago, a boy named Andy got a Buzz Lightyear doll for his birthday. It was his favorite movie, and this is that movie. So that's literally like the opening text on the movie itself. Those are like the opening lines that you get in the movie. So, context of the movie. This was a movie that came out in 1995 in, like, whatever dimension Andy lives in, if you want to go for the Pixar theory, which I can agree with. And Andy saw this movie called Lightyear, and my dad made the comment of, like, well, if it's a movie that's supposed to take place, like, then, so why didn't they use, like, animation from back then? And my answer was, because I believe this movie is supposed to be a live-action movie that came out in the Pixar universe, or at least in the Toy Story universe. And so these would have been live action people that they would have had doing this. And then they just would have had really freaking good special effects for that time frame. Would have been kind of my answer to that. So hence why there's different voices. There's still a lot of like Buzz's, phrases that he says in the Toy Story movies, or that he's like pre-recorded, Buzz, 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 Lightyear to the rescue, and like all this other stuff that he says as his toy catchphrases. They do come up in the movie quite a bit. So, premise of the movie itself, going into just the movie itself, there are Starfleet, Star Command, Star Space Rangers, whatever you want to go with. And they end up, them and a whole bunch of other people are kind of in like, stasis sleep, cryogenic sleep, whatever you want to go with. Traveling at, light speed throughout the universe, and they find this planet that happens to have, it has signs of life on it, so they stop the ship, they land the ship, and Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger comes out, and he starts, exploring the planet, and I love how they do this, because of course in Toy Story, when Buzz first lands on Andy's bed, he's talking into his communicator, because he's like doing the mission log, and they have Buzz do the mission log throughout the movie, which I really like how they work that into the movie. And we have him walking around, and then we're introduced to his best friend, who is Alicia Hawthorne, who is his supervisor. He's a captain. No, he's just a space ranger, and she's like the commander, something along those lines. She's above him in hierarchy. And they're like best friends throughout the story of the movie. We get backstory that like they were best friends at like academy, and like that's where they met, and they developed this really, really great friendship. And while they're there, they're just, walking through this jungle area, seeing these, very, very large vegetative vines and everything all over the place, and these trees, and like, the ground's not exactly, the same as Earth, but they're, checking out, they're investigating the planet like they're supposed to see if it's habitable enough for them to, start colonizing it, I guess. And Hawthorne says, you forgot to bring along the rookie. And they have this rookie there who is... Buzz wants nothing to do with him because Buzz is, of course, in this mindset, and he stays in this mindset through a lot of the movie, that he can do this on his own. He doesn't need anybody else. Alicia is different because she's his best friend. They can read each other very easily. They can finish each other's sentences, all this stuff. They get along perfectly. They work perfectly fine as a team. Buzz doesn't really like the concept of other people coming into that because he has this persona of being able to do anything that he sets his mind to. And, throughout the course of this, Buzz has to deal with the rookie who he wants nothing to do with, and that's Featheringhamston. Stupid name, but that's the point. He does not care. And then, I love that they have this scene where Buzz is like, kind of like, he's giving the rookie this whole, amazing speech. That's probably like this speech that they give at, like, I don't know, Space Ranger, Starfleet, Starfleet graduation, or like, their first day of training or whatever. And he's doing this, and we have this epic music in the background, and he like turns to Alicia, it's like playing music on her communicator, and he's like, "Will you stop it?" I love that scene. I love the fact that they put that in the trailer because that was just hilarious. And then it's just funnier in the movie with whole context of everything. And she's like, I couldn't resist. You're so easy to mess with. So during this time frame, what ends up happening is they find out that the planet is actually very hostile and is not good for humans to live on because the vines and everything will attack people. They're semi-sentient, and there are these giant bugs that like to attack people. And so we have that whole issue. And during this time frame, there's this whole bit where we see this really good action sequence of like how Buzz and Alicia work together, and how like, he loses tools and she's able to give him the tool at the exact right timing and everything that he needs it. And they save the rookie, and then they get back to the ship, and they need to get the ship out of there because the planet is not good for them. But in the process, Alicia has to go one way and do something with the engine, and Buzz has to get back to the flight deck so he can pilot the ship. And Buzz, refusing to take help from the rookie again, ends up, via the bad way that they're trying to take off, they end up actually like clipping the side of this cliff, and they end up like, injuring the ship to the point where it is incapable of flight now. And they, the ship crashes. And they have to, wake everybody up and, like, get them out of, like, their sleep pods or whatever, and, like, get them onto the planet. And they, Buzz is like, okay, you need to court-martial me. And he, like, is, ready to, like, turn in his Starfleet badge and everything, because he's like, I failed the mission. And, I shouldn't, I'm the reason everybody here can't go home now because our light speed crystal broke and everything. And he's just very sad about this. He even, like, cuffs himself to the ship, which is kind of funny. And Alicia is just like, Buzz, put your name thing back on. This is ridiculous. And, via them talking and, like, her kind of, like, reverse psychologing Buzz, which I just love how she does that. It's basically like, okay, well, we're going to need to fix the ship. And in order to be able to leave the planet and get back home, we need to be able to travel at light speed. In regards to doing that, we need to be able to mine this planet's resources using the technology that they have on their ship, and of course the minds and skills and abilities of the people that were on the ship with them. So that way we can, get this, build a ship that we can test for the flight, and then B, start getting the materials that we need to be able to make the Lightspeed crystal. And everything. So just like, okay, so that's what they end up working on. And she's like, but I'm going to need someone that's going to be able to fly the plane. And that's where Buzz comes in, because he's an amazing pilot. So Buzz is like, okay, yeah. And he's like back into action. And, we have this like time skip ahead to about a year now. And they've set up, there's like temporary quarters for everybody. They've, built up, this area that because it's like there's this whole process that you have to go through. It's like, well, first we have to be able to protect ourselves from the vines, and we got to be able to protect ourselves from the bugs, and we got to get all this other stuff ready, and then we got to get this material ready and everything. So we have all this time skip that happens in that, first year. And then it's time for them to test it. They built this, this ship that they can use for Buzz to test the crystal in. They make a combination of stuff that can form a crystal, and then he has to test it to see if it's going to work. And what ends up happening is, Alicia is like the one that's kind of in command of like the base at this point in time, like their little, well, I guess a base would be a good way of putting it, where everybody's living. And so she's the one that's in control at the moment. She's the one that's in charge, because I guess she's the highest ranking officer there. And Alicia's smart enough to take like advice from people and everything like that, so that's not an issue. But what ends up happening is, Buzz goes off, and he tests the crystal, and the first test does not go well. He can't reach light speed, and he ends up getting knocked off track. And there are these rings that he has to go through for like re-entry into the planet, so that way he's like slowed down instead of just crashing on the planet, which makes perfect sense. And what I really like what they show in this is like the computer is not working correctly. He has this internal voice activated navigator, Ivan is what it's called, and he hates navigating. He hates the computer navigators. And I love what they do, and I could not find a screenshot of this. They actually show Buzz, because like when you're an astronaut, you have to be able to do different types of calculations on the fly, and different things like that. We've seen this in other space movies and stuff like that before. When it comes to, I've seen Apollo 13, and we have different, there's different things that they have to calculate, and that on the ship themselves, where they don't actually have a computer there with them. Other things along those lines that they do. And astronauts are also usually extremely smart people in those regards, because there's different circumstances where you don't know what's going to happen. And I love that they show Buzz doing these calculations, and he's actually like using like the cockpit, the glass of the cockpit, for him to like draw on and like figure out trajectory and everything like that for what he needs to do. And I love that they put that in there. That made me so happy. That just made me so happy, because it's just like, yes, you need that. That is one of the careers where math is very important. Not so much what I do, but that career, yes. And he like figures out this whole thing that if he, ejects the crystal at the right moment before it explodes, it'll knock him into the rings and he can slow down. And he does, and then he lands, and he sees that the base looks quite a bit different, and that people look different. And, Alicia explains that you've been gone for 4 years. And during that time frame, we kind of thought you were lost, like the ship blew up or something like that is what we thought. And what we, so we had to, we kind of kept building and everything like that. And there's more housing for people to live in and everything like that they've built up. And Buzz gets the explanation that when he was trying to go to light speed, that the closer you get to light speed in that regard, the slower time moves for you, but everybody else is aging at the same rate. So for Buzz, he was gone for about 4 minutes. So it was about 4 years that he was gone, from their perspective. So he comes back and everybody's 4 years older. And, so he's just like, okay, well, I just need to test it again. And, he's like, okay. And like, so he's kind of seeing what's going on. And, he's talking to Alicia, and he finds out that she's engaged. And we get the whole thing of like, you're engaged to someone you just met? And she's like, well, we met like 2 years ago. And, she's great. She's part of the scientist team. If we hadn't, crashed, I probably never would have met her and everything. And Buzz is very happy for Alicia. And, then Buzz goes into, and like their quarters are like right next to each other, but like Buzz goes into his quarters, and that's where he finds Socks, who is this little robotic cat that is adorable, and I love Socks. Little orange robotic teddy cat, which is adorable. And this is like a therapy cat that they have for Buzz, and it's roaming around, and it tries to help Buzz, calm down. It's like, I can play games and like all this other stuff. And it's a very useful cat. And what ends up happening is Buzz very much resolves himself to be like, okay, well, I'm going to find a way to get us off this planet. I'm going to test those crystals however long it takes for me to find a way to do this, for us to find that right concoction, mixture of materials. And before he leaves, he ends up, Socks is like, well, what can I do to help? And he ends up giving Socks, like, so here's like the materials that we have to make the crystal, and like, just, maybe you can figure out the crystal. In actuality, it's of course Buzz trying to figure out a way to keep the cat distracted, so that way the cat will like leave him alone. And such, and that's what he does. It's like he doesn't have faith that the cat's going to be able to do it, but that's his intention, is for that to happen, is for the cat to just be distracted. Because Socks is meant to be a therapy animal. He's not meant to be like this super high over the top computer. He's smart, but he's not like that type of smart in regards to those things. But it's like they have him set up there to work on that. And Buzz just continuously keeps doing these different tests again and again and again with all these different combinations of what they're trying to do for the crystal, and ends up time traveling TARDIS phone box here with Cat's library shirt. And he keeps jumping forward like about 4-ish years. For him, maybe he's on the planet for maybe about a week at the most in between flights, is my thought. But as he keeps jumping forward, Alicia's life keeps happening, and each time he shows up, she's older. The first time he shows back, the second time he shows back up, she's pregnant. The next time she had the baby. The next time after that, the kid's like, grown, and like she keeps getting older, and Buzz is just like, it's like he's happy that she's getting to have this life, that she found this woman that she's in love with, that she had a child, that the child is growing up and healthy, and all this other stuff. And, we get these great, we get this thing where it's like for Buzz, it's like maybe he's back for like a week before he goes again, but Alicia's life is going and going and going and going. And then he shows up one time at her office, and her office is empty. And there's just this little holographic communicator thing that he plugs in. And she's old now. And, she's like sitting in her hospital bed, and she's saying, "Sorry, Buzz, I just, by the time you see this, you'll be back, but I won't." And, she's like, "I really wanted to be a space ranger again, but, I got to have my family. I got to have my, she had her son, and we see her granddaughter there in the thing, and her granddaughter, little Izzy, just wants to be a space ranger like her mom, like her grandma, which is adorable. Izzy is adorable. And so we have that, and like Buzz is just watching, and he's like really sad because he never got to get her to be able to be a space ranger again. And she ended up in, like, from his perspective, because for Buzz, like, yeah, they had the year where they were like getting everything ready for this mission, but he just keeps having the mission again and again and again, and keeps failing at it, in his opinion. Whereas Alicia and everybody else around him was getting older. And for him, maybe he's been at it for like a month, maybe a little more than a month, depending on stuff. And there's this thing that Buzz and Alicia do, which is where they get the infinity and beyond, to infinity and beyond for Buzz Lightyear. And it's, it's kind of like a fist bump thing, but it's just like, to infinity and beyond, type of a thing that they do. And like that's how she ends her little holographic goodbye message to Buzz. And he's he finds a picture that was the two of them when they were first at Starfleet, and how they're like, how far they've come, but also it's sad for Buzz. And then he meets the new guy that's in charge, Commander Burnside, who's like, "Oh no, we're just continuing the mission. We're just going to stay here on the planet, and we're just going to build like this laser grid to keep all the bugs out." Just like, okay, admittedly, laser shield is a good idea. I'll give you that. That's a very good idea. But, Buzz is like, okay, and he goes back to his room. And he finds Socks, and Socks explains, "I finally figured out how to get the crystal to work." And Buzz is like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did." And, he's been working on it for like 60 years or something like that, is how long, he's been working on the crystal, calculations and everything. So it makes sense that he was able to get it. Of course, as soon as he explains that, people show up, and it's just like, "We need to take your cat." It's just like, did he send off a signal or something? But, Buzz grabs Socks, and they escape, and they end up finding their way to like where the hangar is, where the plane is, and where they make the crystal, batch together. Get in the plane. They have to escape by running away from everybody, and they end up, getting into space, and they do they test the crystal, and it works. They hit light speed, which is a really cool sequence. And there's confetti from Ivan, which is funny. And then they land, and nobody's answering their call from base, and he's just like, why aren't they answering? And then he ends up landing in the forest, and he ends up being introduced to Izzy, and where he ends up seeing this robot, this yellow robot that's keeps saying Zerg again and again and again. It looks like it steals his ship by like teleporting it away, and then he ends up meeting Izzy, and he ends up finding out that Izzy is Alicia's granddaughter, and that she has a team and she has a plan to get to the robots, because the robots showed up like a week ago, and like they trapped everybody inside of the shield, and there were a couple of them that were outside of the shield, and now that's where they are now, and they end up going to like one of this base area, where it's just like Izzy's like, I have a team, and the team is not as impressive as you think they're going to be. It's Darby Steele, who is a convict that is an elderly convict that apparently likes to blow things up. Mo Morrison, who is he doesn't really do that well under pressure. He's very ill-equipped, and he's a serial quitter. And Buzz finds out that these guys are actually they're not even rookie level. They're like in training stuff for Starfleet, for like being a space ranger. And he's just like, oh god, this is not going to go well. And like they have this plan to be able to get to the ship and blow it up and then free everybody. And Buzz is like, okay, well, we need a ship. And then during this whole time frame, the Zerg robot shows up. And this robot here, this yellow one that shows up, that's the first one that finds Zerg, Buzz's plane, and then goes and tries to find Buzz. This robot should get Employee of the Month on the Zerg payroll, because it shows up at this outer base where they are. It manages to actually capture Buzz, and during the whole process, Sox tries to stop it, and they end up working together against it, and Buzz just sees that they do not make a good team at all. No matter how much Izzy wants to be like her grandma, she's not quite there yet. And they end up getting the arm detached that has Buzz, and then they end up harpooning the robot, and it falls down. And then they're just like, okay, that's not gonna work. So they need to figure out okay, well, we need a new plane, and we need this, and they end up having, during this time frame, they end up having to go to where this other area is, where there's more supplies and has a plane there, and their intention is to get the plane, fly up to the ship, and blow it up. Seems simple, is not. And what ends up happening is, while they're on their way there, Buzz gets much more, acquainted with them. He's not very happy with them, because it's just convict, serial quitter, child is trying to live up to her grandma. This is not a good combination of a team. And plus talking cat robot. Love socks. And during this time frame, he finds out that Izzy has this fear of space. She has astrophobia. And he's like, well, that would be an automatic disqualification from Starfleet Academy. She's like, yeah, I know. And admittedly, I don't blame her for being terrified of space, given certain circumstances. I don't blame her. But what ends up happening is, during this time frame, they end up going to one of the bases where the old Starfleet uniforms are, and Buzz gets into his old uniform, and Alicia's old uniform is there along with a couple of others. And during this time frame, they figure out that, oh, well, this place is infested with a bunch of the bugs, so we need to get away from the bugs. And they all end up in the Starfleet uniforms, because they have stealth mode, and they try to get past the bugs, and it was working, and then it didn't work, and then they end up getting, they all end up in this ship that ends up somewhat crashing because of them not all working together correctly. And they end up needing to go get this new part, and they have to go to this kind of a salvage area, or it's a material repurposing center or something like that. And during this time frame, we have like one of the robots went back up to the Zerg ship and like awakened Zerg, and Buzz has appeared and everything, and Zerg is ready to go to the planet and everything to find Buzz, and they end up at this it's a mining area is where the team end up. And during this time frame, they end up having to work together, doing multiple things. They have to get this component out of this console so they can use that. And it's not like they're like fresh recruits. They've done several like weekend training classes, and like they also have like I guess their own skills to a degree that they're bringing into it. And like Izzy has read Alicia's like Starfleet books like cover to cover twice, which she's very proud about. And so we get to see that. And then they end up having to work together they end up getting trapped in like these, I refer to them as like the cone of silence. You can still hear them. They're like capture cones. They're adorable. They end up having to get out of those. And during this time frame, they get food out of a vending machine, which I already find adorable. And it's a meat sandwich, which Buzz looks at this and he's like, well, this isn't right because it's meat and then meat on top, meat on bottom, and then like the bread's in the middle, and then there's like pickles and other stuff in there. And they're just like, well, how did you have it? Bread, meat, bread? That's way too much bread. It's just like this is what they're used to. And for Buzz, it's not exactly what he's used to. So it's just like, like he gets more backstory out of them, and we have this moment where like Socks kind of needs to reboot, and he gets this other message that was left for him by Alicia or to Socks to take care of Buzz and everything. And during this time frame, what ends up happening is Darby and Mo are like they're getting a little bit dejected, particularly Mo, and Buzz ends up telling them that dog is barking. And Buzz ends up telling them that, well, when I first started at the academy, I couldn't even hit the target. Not the bullseye, the whole target. I was so bad my first week, and I wanted to quit. And then I met Alicia, and she saw something in me, and she made me keep going. And so we get kind of a little bit of like this, Buzz backstory type of thing. And they end up, so it's like the four of them bonding and everything. So we get that nice moment there, and they're just like, okay, well, let's get back to our, ship, and we can get the ship going, and I can head up to space, and we can, blow up the Zerg ship and save everybody. And they get back to the ship, and during this time frame, the one robot that is the one that got harpooned and lost an arm is still out roaming around trying to find them. And I'm like, this bot just keeps going. It like makes his way to the mining area, and like then goes back, and then like this robot gets MVP or gets employee of the month in the Zerg payroll because it does not stop. It keeps going. And then we have this moment where Buzz and the rest of the crew are because during this whole time frame, Buzz is carrying the Lightspeed crystal around with him. Because that is the valuable thing that they need to keep a hold of at all times. Also, it's used to help power other vehicles as well, so they need it that way. And there ends up being this other chase sequence where they end up getting chased by these other robots while they're trying to get their ship to the point where it can fly again. And, there's more not quite good communication between Buzz and Alicia and Izzy that results in the ship kind of crashing. And, they were like, we have Darby and Mo like using explosives to like blow up a bunch of the robots that are trying to attack them, which is fun. And then we get this moment where Zerg shows up, and not only does he grab the crystal, he grabs Buzz and then vanishes. And so there's other moments in there where like Buzz ends up having to learning to communicate more with the team and everything, and getting better at that. and getting more of accepting of like the fact that he can't do everything on his own, because they like saved him from Zurg at one point, and then they, you know, and they came back for him, and then they, you know, now he's been captured by Zurg and he gets taken to the ship and everything. And well, they're, you know, the Zurg robot opens up, and inside is what looks like an older Buzz. And he's like, Dad? Not quite. You, much older, from the future. And it's this whole thing where it's just like, okay, so Buzz had originally, in like a previous timeline, Doctor Who, Buzz had landed after proving that the Lightspeed crystal worked, and then he was almost arrested by, you know, Burnside, but then he escaped because it had been like another 22 years, and that's why Izzy is now full grown. Between when he left to do the last test on the crystal and when he returned, it was like 22 years, so that's why Izzy is like an adult now as opposed to a child. And what happens is, you know, this Buzz then ended up using the crystal and ended up going into the future, and where he found all of this amazing technology and everything that's like the Zurg robots and everything, and they can't say Buzz, so they say Zurg. And, you know, we end up seeing this like very beat up version of Socks that, you know, is there and has been like helping this older Buzz. And, but, you know, older Buzz reveals that it's like, oh, well, if we use your crystal, we can go back in time and we can prevent us from either A, ever landing on this planet, or B, everything crash landed on the planet and stuck here. And that way Alicia can go and be a Starfleet officer again. You guys can, you know, be Space Rangers again, and we can matter again. And Buzz is kind of like initially like all in for this plan. And then like Buzz, the older Buzz, mentions that this is just kind of like erase everything that happened. The last, you know, 60 some whatever years that have happened. 60, 70 whatever years. And Buzz is like, but that'll erase Izzy. Who's Izzy? And, you know, because for the other Buzz, it's been a long time, because he figured out that, oh, well, with all of his experimenting on stuff, he was eventually able to figure out how to travel back in time. And that's what he was then, you know, then he went back in time and then like attacked the base with all the Zurg robots. So that way this Buzz, the older, you know, Buzz we've been watching, won't end up getting captured, and then he can then steal the crystal back and then use that and fix everything. Or from his perspective, fix everything. And during this time frame, you know, Buzz had this conversation with Izzy where Izzy says it was just like, you know, Grandma Alicia was never alone. She had Grandma Kiko, and she had my dad, and she had me, and she had all of her friends and everything. And basically she says the one thing that like she regretted was the fact that she put so much pressure on Buzz to finish the mission, to find them a way to get home, to find a way for them to have, you know, the crystallic fusion and have the, you know, light speed and everything, that Alicia kind of blamed herself for the fact that like, well, everybody else had these lives that they got to live. Buzz didn't. Buzz just kept continuing this mission again and again and again, and that he never got to like actually settle down, or never got to just have time where he could actually relax. It was always just focusing on getting to the next launch, the next test. And, you know, Buzz is having this moment where he's realizing the fact that home didn't necessarily mean that they had to leave the planet. That the planet for where everybody was living kind of became home. And, you know, they found, people got married, people had kids, you know, those kids grew up and then got married and had kids of their own and everything. But, you know, for Buzz, he just kept coming back and seeing little slices of this, as opposed to like Alicia making him stop and stay. And I'm assuming Buzz met Kiko at some point in time. I'm assuming Buzz met the wife at some point in time. Maybe he was around long enough for the wedding. I don't know. We never find out about that. Possibly not, but maybe. Maybe it's just like, Buzz, no, I need you here for my wedding. You can wait like 3 months before we do this next test launch. Fine. I don't know. That's just the headcanon. But I'm assuming Buzz met Kiko at some point in time. But for Buzz, for the most part, he was just focused on the mission. You know, the next test, the next test, the next one. And while everybody else was living their lives. And that's when he has this realization where, yes, I've been continuing through the, you know, again and again and again. But for everybody else, they lived. They actually got to have this life. And like he realizes he doesn't want to get rid of Izzy because, you know, if they go back in time and change stuff, then that gets rid of Izzy. And that takes Izzy and her father and her, you know, and Kiko away from Alicia. And so we get that moment, and then, you know, young Buzz is like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do this now. And he tries to take the crystal, and then Zurg Buzz tries to stop him, and then, Zurg Buzz tries to stop him, and then the older robot Socks ends up like, stun darting him or whatever, tranquilizing him, and he like, I bought you 5 minutes, and then they steal the crystal and they're trying to escape, and they get, try to get the, the Zurg ship set up to explode, because that's the initial point of getting to the ship in the first place, get it to self-destruct. And then during this time frame, Izzy, Darby, and Mo have figured out a way to get to the ship by teleporting themselves to the ship by like using the little button things that the robots have. And they get to the ship, and Darby and Mo are supposed to figure out a way to like block the corridor so that way the robots can't come down, and then can't get to their ship, and they need to keep the ship safe. And like Alicia grabbed like one of the teleport things so she can Izzy grabbed one of the teleport things so that way she can then zap herself and Buzz back to the teleport pad. Good idea. They also have this joke that is definitely a Portal joke where like Mo picked up one of the like teleport things and dropped it, and like just like infinite loop of like falling and popping back up in the air. It was funny. I'm like, that's a Portal reference, or at least I hope it's a Portal reference. I've never played Portal, but I know what it is. Whatever. And what ends up happening is, during this time frame, Izzy and Socks are trying to find where Buzz is, and Socks is trying to lead her there, but there's 2 signals, and they end up having to have this moment where Izzy has to go from one part of the ship to like the control room of the ship, but that involves having to go through like actual space. Like she has to like float across from like this door to this part. And I don't blame her for being terrified, because it's like she doesn't have anything that she can use to propel herself. She pushes off, and that's the direction she's going in unless she finds something else to grab onto. And during this time frame, like she got to like her communicator activated, and she was like able to communicate with Buzz, the young Buzz, to tell him that she was there and that they had this plan and everything. And during this time frame, the Zurg Buzz has showed up, and he's trying to stop Buzz, which is fun. And what ends up happening is, he crushed the old Socks, so old Socks is now gone. And what ends up happening is, Izzy starts, she jumps. So, she pushes off, and she's floating. Unfortunately, the ship starts to move. So she's like going this way, and she's aiming for this, but this is going up, and she's going to go under. Thankfully, she ends up being able to like grab onto stuff that's underneath the ship and get Socks, and they end up getting inside, and they use stealth mode, and they stop Zurg, and they incapacitate Zurg, and they get Buzz, and they, warp back to the teleport pad where Darby and Mo had managed to make a bomb and then set off said bomb by dropping giant thing on it and stopping the robots, and then getting back to the teleport pad. So that's just funny. And then they're in the pad, and Buzz ends up having the ship ends up is like crashing at this point in time, or is kind of getting blown up at this point in time. And Buzz, their ship is falling, and Buzz ends up getting into his old ship, and flying that by powering it with the crystal, and he ends up having to eject because that gets attacked by Zurg. And we have this dual thing where like Buzz is doing his communicator stuff, and where Zurg Buzz is like doing his mission log stuff. So it's like going back and forth on like their opposing points of view on like how to end this mission. And we get this moment where Buzz ends up like sacrificing the Lightspeed crystal in order to blow up Zurg, or presumably blow up Zurg. And he does that, and then like he has ejected out of his ship, and he uses his now he has like a jetpack on his suit, and he uses that to like fly down and using, him and Izzy and Darby and Mo and Socks all working together, they're able to prevent their ship from crashing by Buzz, slowing it down and everything by using his jetpack, so it's not gonna crash as much into the planet, and they end up landing safely. And then that's when Burnside shows up with everybody else, and he's ready to Buzz thinks he's going to get court-martialed, and that Izzy and the others are going to get arrested and everything. And Burnside says, no, that's not what I'm doing. We're going to restart the Space Ranger program, and you're going to be the one in charge. And, you can pick from the best of the best. And Buzz is like, I'll do that, but I'm not going to pick from the best of the best. I'm going to pick these guys because they're my team, and I know how to work with them. And so we get that great moment, and, then they're all, we cut to, I'm assuming, a little bit later, and they're all, they have, upgraded armor that has, this is where, the laser comes in, this is where, the jetpack comes in and everything. So they have those, all those features and everything that were not on the initial suit that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And, all of them are, now they're space, they're space rangers, and they're heading off, and their first mission and everything. And, Alicia or Buzz and Izzy do the To Infinity and Beyond thing and everything. And, everybody's happy. Buzz even has a better relationship with the autopilot, which is funny. There's 3 mid-credit scenes. There's one that is Burnside just sitting at his office desk after the launch, I'm assuming. And a bug tries to attack the laser grid, and it just gets blown up, and he's just like, haha, laser shield. And then there's another one that is there had been this robot at the base with Darby and Mo and Izzy that had been trying to give them directions, and it was horrible at it. And it finally figures out this route, but everybody's already left. And then the last bit is we get a post-credit scene where we actually see the Zurg armor floating, and it wakes up, and indicating that Zurg / Buzz, old Buzz, survived. So we'll see where they go with that. If they end up doing a Buzz Lightyear 2, or doing a Lightyear 2. In regards to cast, we have Chris Evans, love him. I'm a Marvel fangirl. What can I say? She says it's not having any Marvel stuff up here in poster form. I have Iron Man's shield over there and Cap, or I don't have anything from Cap. I need a Cap shield. I need a Cap shield at some point, but I don't have that. We have Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. We have James Brolin as Old Zurg, which as Old Buzz / Zurg. So I don't know if he's related to Josh Brolin or not, but we have Uzo Aduba as Alicia Hawthorne. We have Kiki Palmer as Izzy Hawthorne. I really liked Izzy. She was great. We have Aisha Whitlock Jr. as Commander Burnside. Sorry, dude. Taika Waititi as Mo Morrison, who's of course been in Jojo Rabbit, which I have seen, has been in, he directed Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder, where he played Korg. So yeah, I'm familiar with him from those. We have Dale Soules as Darby Steele. We have Efren Ramirez, sorry, as Airman Diaz, who's just one of the other various characters that we see. And we have Peter Sohn as Socks. I think Peter Sohn is just someone else that works at Pixar, and they liked his voice for Socks, so that's what they went with. For some reason, I'm drawing a connection to him and The Good Dinosaur, but I could be wrong on that, so don't take my word for that. As the guy that directed The Good Dinosaur, but I don't know. So, that's what we have for Lightyear. I did really, really like the movie. I loved how they expanded on this world that the Lightyear doll comes from and everything. And I will admit this, okay, so one thing that I don't like that they did was they completely disregarded the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command animated series that they had way back, that came out a couple of years after Toy Story did, and that aired on Disney Channel. I remember watching that. That was a fun show with Buzz Lightyear and everything. And I was just like, so where does that fall into this timeline? Because we don't really end up seeing any aliens in this timeline. We don't see any aliens in the movie. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do with that. I understand them like wanting to do like a different continuity, but I just don't like them completely disregarding it. But, you know, whatever. That's what we have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. After this, it's going to be a bunch of different Digimon videos. I am still going to do a video where I rank all the different Pixar movies. But other than that, it's mostly going to be like some other various Disney stuff at the end of the month, because I believe this is going to go up in October. And there'll be a bunch of Disney stuff here in regards to like Disney villain stuff for, you know, villains for October, for Halloween, blah, 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 blah. But then it's going to be a lot of Digimon videos and One Piece videos. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. To infinity and beyond.